This is a story about three frying pans. Frying pans. I've seen a whole book written about a frying pan, so it was quite interesting actually. The family frying pan, I think it was called. But we got some frying pan issues in our family. I just the frying pan incident. Hearing it from my mother's side was infamous in our family, and she's so proud of it. She's so proud of it. Thinks it's funny. Just like Amber Heard thinks that she should get away with everything she's done. My mother thought that whacking me dad over the head with a cast iron frying pan when he walked in the door drunk one night, home late because she'd been ringing up. He wasn't coming home straight away. Didn't do what she wanted. Well, there's repercussions, and those repercussions are getting whacked over the head as you walk in the door, 3 o'clock in the morning, drunk, with a cast iron frying pan. So her side of the story was that he got up, and she was scared, so she ran out through the back door, scaled the 6-foot fence that we had. I could scale that as a little 4 or 5 year old kid too, so it's not that hard. She scaled that and then hid in the neighbour's back garden all night. Well, you try to kill someone, and it doesn't come off, so I don't know what the hell she was thinking. She's still proud of that story. She still tells it. I think it speaks volumes to her craziness or her maybe narcissism thing that she thinks she could just do whatever she wants. Oh, I don't know. She's justified, or I don't know. I don't know. But I heard my dad's side of the story just the other day, and how it came up. It came up as a funny thing. He's just got the Rona at the moment, and well, somehow we got onto the subject of how, because Mrs. and I had just been talking about this subject just a day or so earlier, how people in their formative years listen to certain sorts of music, and obviously we listen to those radio stations, and those are the radio stations that we keep listening to. As we get to the 30s and 40s and 50s, that music usually sort of stops somewhere in the between 16 and 28 or something like that. That's where so that's your music sampling, that usually that, something like that. Some people musically inclined, and they might progress through, and like myself, I have a whole bunch of different genres that I listen to and stuff like that. But there'd certainly be music in that time period that if I hear it, it just resonates straight away. And what we were sort of saying about these, somehow it was, she just brought up that, Alzheimer's patients, if you play some music, they're totally unreachable, and then all of a sudden you can play some music from their formative years and they light up and, almost responsive. And I recently read some books, a lot of the psychology, brain chemically type books that I've been reading, brain science, neuroscience sort of stuff that I've been reading over recent year or two, talk about that as well. There was a book written by David Byrne, How Music Works. I think there was a little bit of that sort of stuff in there. There was a book called Guitar Zero by some other fella that had a little bit of maybe, had a bit of something. There was probably another one or two as well that had neuroscience, brain chemical type stuff, how music from your formative years can drive certain parts of the brain. And somehow we'd gotten onto the subject when I was talking to my dad the other day, and he had two stories that he wanted to talk about. Two stories. And one of them was the lead up to the frying pan story that I'd never heard before. And his what he was telling me, and like it didn't. He just happened to tell the frying pan part at the end. But what he was saying is he'd been out hunting with his best mate all day, and his best mate was the one I might have told you before is probably in my top three of people that I know. Like he's just as far as a mentor or something like that. And they'd been out hunting all day, and had gone back to probably gone to the pub and then gone back to my dad's mate's place. Then they were drinking, and my dad's mate's wife was a bit, I don't know. I don't think they liked the drinking. I don't think they did, And that feminism thing had just sort of kicked in, and they were trying to stamp their authority and stuff like that. And so they were putting it out there for sure. My mother, my aunties, and this my dad's mate's wife as well. She's always been a bit resentful of the bond between the mates, That's very much like that Amber Heard thing now, isn't it? It's very much like Amber Heard didn't want Johnny to be anywhere but himself, but with her, like couldn't be with mates and having a good time anywhere else. He had to go and couldn't even be playing the guitar by himself. He had to go and get herself injected in there. I think a lot of that stuff, although I sort of agree to some extent with equal rights and things like that, but equal opportunity, equal rights, that's wrong. Changing of the ways to make up for what your people has missed out before, that's wrong. That's how the pendulum swings back and forth, and there's no middle ground, So I don't. Yeah, so I don't. I've got opinions, but I'll try to keep them out of here because it's still about INFJ, born or created, and this is some of my formative years. These stories I've heard growing up, and it ties into the old JD and AH thing. And it ties into, the woman being the aggressor. And the justification is that he came home drunk and he didn't come home when I told him to. Well, he came home pretty happy. For sure. But they'd been out hunting all day, been to the pub, gone back to his mate's place, sitting out on the veranda on the little farm there, little farmlet, drinking rum. But here comes the song bit. They played over and over and over again the song called The Ship's on the Harbour by Roger Whittaker. And And over and over and over and over and over again till 3 o'clock in the morning. And my mother apparently was ringing up. This is the funny bit. My dad was sort of saying, he says, she was ringing up saying, when's he coming home? And then his mate's missus was going, like in front of him, when's he going home? A couple of hours later, my mother would be ringing up, when's he coming home? And she'd be going, when's he going home? And it was quite confusing for me, Dad, because he just didn't know whether he was coming or going, is what he said. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, he'd take us home. Well, not take us home. Would have driven, for sure. And as he opened the door, he got clocked on the head with a frying pan. He said he got knocked down and he saw stars. First time ever. There'd been lots of fights and, you know, all sorts of things, played all the rugby and all that sort of stuff. But it's the first time he ever saw stars. Well, apparently she locked the door and disappeared. He didn't know where she'd gone, but he couldn't get in. And there was just like in all the movies, little glass panels on the door. And he wanted to go to sleep by this stage. So he smashed a little bit of glass out, reached in, unlocked the door, just like they do in all the movies. And went in and went to bed. He's got a little tagline of the story, how he got up early in the morning because he had to go and buy this little Land Rover he'd been trying to buy from someone that didn't want to sell it. As one owner Land Rover, they had 20,000 miles on it. It was a beautiful thing, and he'd been trying to convince this mate of a mate, to sell this thing, and he had to go up there at 6 o'clock in the morning, up the coast, and he did, and he turned up there and looking all dishevelled and hungover, and all his arms still bleeding from all the cuts in the glass and rags wrapped around it. This bloke didn't know what he was getting himself into. So that's one side of the story anyway. There's two sides to that. I was there, right in that room, you know, from where that glass got broken, from where the thing happened. I might not have been awake, but I would have been 2.5 meters away from that. So that's the sort of stuff I grew up with. But that's only part one of the frying pans. And I didn't want to make this channel about my mother, but when she kidnapped us and we ran away, my grandfather, the town drunk, the one that I ignored that time that he walked past on pushing his bike one Friday night or something like that, when I was 15 and uptown with my mates. He had put some money, a little bit of money, into a bank account, like you do with kids back in those days. You'd open a bank account, because you can open it in someone else's name, and you can put money into it. It's a little book, and it's got all the transactions in it and stuff like that, and you can, I don't know. So there was a little tiny bit of money being put in there. Money wasn't growing on trees in those days, and anyway, a little bit of money was in there. And it was near enough, I think it was just a fraction over, it was near enough to $60 by the time we were kidnapped. Which was, not a huge amount of money, but it was a decent amount. sort of. And I remember we were actually staying at my grandmother's place, her mother's place, at the time, sort of in between places, or maybe the stepfather fellow who hadn't quite become a stepfather yet. No, he hadn't actually. It was before he came down. And we had nothing. We had absolutely nothing. And so my mother said to me one day, "Give me your bank book. I need to buy a frying pan. We've got no money." Okay. But I'd also sort of known that this bank book with that little bit of money was, I knew it was mine. It was given to me by someone, by my grandfather. It's probably his way of sort of saying, hey, there's some connection. I don't know. There was something about it that mattered to me. And it was not much money or anything, but it was $60. Just a fraction over, I think it was. And she said, I need to go and buy a frying pan. It's $12. I need a frying pan. So the bank book she went and took $60 out, because that was the maximum dollar values. Instead of getting cents, and you can leave it still a little tiny bit of residual balance in the account. She took $60. Apparently the frying pan was $12. And I'm pretty sure the rest went on vodka and Coke. And packets of smokes, probably Sportsman 25s. Because I never saw anything, but maybe there's some food, but I doubt it. I think it was an excuse to get the money just to be able to blow on something. So, anyway, well, that's what I thought of my mother back then. So that's the second frying pan story. The third frying pan story was when I left. The old stepfather had sort of kicked me out, or give me an ultimatum. You do it our way under our roof. This was when I was 17 or so. I'd gone down to live with my brothers again, all that sort of thing. And he'd given me an ultimatum. You either play by our rules or you get out. This is before we had the little fight. And I said, I'll be gone. Thank you, mate. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And not long after that, my mum, when she realised it was for real and I was moving out by myself, she gave me a going away present. Cast iron frying pan. I've still got it. It's a nice little cast iron skillet. Don't think that's the one. I don't think that was the one in question before. But in light of what I know about the cast iron frying pans and her, I've kept it around. I don't keep it with any of the other pots and pans. I don't want to let them get infected with toxicity. For a while I did cook in it, but I don't anymore. I don't like those memories that it brings up. The fact that she gave me a cast iron frying pan. I don't know if there's a metaphor in it. You know, like INFJs can read too much into stuff. Way too much. So yeah. Three frying pans. I'm out.